Okay, today we're going to tie a lake fly called a California Dreamin. This is a Bill Sheese pattern. He's a fly tyer from Henry's Lake up in Island Park, Idaho. This is a very, very simple little leech pattern. You can see it's a marabou tail, dubbing body, and it's got this wing out of root beer crystal flash. And that's all there is to this fly. It's identical to the RC fly, except for the RC fly obviously uses different colors. So there would be a sculpin olive marabou tail, RC dubbing, which is a brownish olive dubbing, not commercially available, but there is a recipe to mix it up yourself. And this dubbing on this fly is the semi-seal Canadian brown. Okay, so let's get started. So for a hook, I'm going to use a Gamakatsu S10S in a size 8, which is commonly the size that I like to tie these flies in. So this is the package. S10S just means a straight eye instead of a down eye. For thread, I'm going to use 8/0 Semperfli's wax thread. And I'm going to start my thread right back here, right above the barb. I'm going to go back a couple times to trap my waist piece, and then I'm going to flatten my thread out and bring it forward. And the way I like to tie my marabou tails in is I like to tie them in from the eye back, and that way they're nice and straight. My bodies are uniform. If I put my marabou on and tie it back here and cut it, I've got a bump back here, and I don't like that. So this is woolly booger marabou, and the color is burnt orange. Okay, it really looks orange on the camera. It's a little browner than it actually looks there. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come from the side. I'm going to pull off a small chunk. I don't need much. This is not a big fly. So about that much right there. And I'm going to pull it off right from the side. And then I'm going to just kind of moisten my fingers and get this a little bit under control. Okay? Okay, now what I want to do is I want all this connective stuff right here. I want this off for sure. And I have two choices here. I could tie it on just like that, which would leave my tail way too long, and then I can just take and pull the marabou off with my thumb. You don't ever want to cut it with a pair of scissors. Or I can hold it up here and kind of measure it out. I want my tail about a half a shank length long off the back. So if I grab my marabou right here and go ahead and cut that, and then take these butt ends and put them right here where my thread is. I don't want to come past my eye. And go ahead and wrap down. Now I can lift my marabou up from the shank, and that way it stays right on the shank. Come right back to where my barb is, and there's my tail. Now I actually think that's still a little bit too long. So what I do now is I just take my thumbnail and I just kind of break them off. I don't want it to look square and cut. I want it to look kind of brushy. Alright, so there's our tail. And now what I want to do is I'm going to flatten my thread out. I'm just going to come back over this shank and really get everything secured nice and uniform. Alright, so now I'm going to do a dubbing loop from the back. Alright, so what I like to do is I like to go ahead and start my dubbing loop here. And then as I wrap back, you see I'm trapping my thread down. And that's going to give me a really secure dubbing loop. And there it is. Alright, thread back to the front. And then whatever kind of a dubbing spinner you like. I'm really happy with this Stanfo. It's a pretty precise made tool. Hang that in there. I'm going to go ahead and put a half hitch in the front and just get my thread out of the way. I know a lot of you guys don't tie with rotary vices, but when I do videos I especially like to use all the rotary functions because it keeps my hands from in front of the screen. Alright, so this is Canadian semi-seal brown. This is what it looks like. Okay, so it's got all kinds of colors in it. It's commercially available at any fly shop. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to take it, I'm going to spread it out, get it fairly even into a nice little section like this. I'm going to put it inside my dubbing loop. And then when I get it in there, I'm going to give it a spin. Try not to grab any of your marabou. Okay, once you've got it spun tight, you can see that it's pretty clumped, all right? And so what I'm going to do is take my dubbing brush, not my dubbing brush, I'm sorry, my Velcro brush, and I'm just going to brush it out until I get it nice and get all those clumps out of there. Okay, and then I can wind it on. So this is a pretty sparse fly, so I don't want to do, you know, I'm not building up any bulk or anything like that. Just wrapping forward. When I get to the front of the fly, I'm going to stop. Go ahead and tie off my dubbing loop. Remove it. And throw a half hitch. Get my thread out of the way again, and then I can take my dubbing brush again, or my Velcro brush, and I can come through and make sure that all of this, because it'll clump down, it'll tie down on itself. And just get it all brushed back. Okay, now all I have left to do is place the wing. Alright, so this is root beer crystal flash. And I'm going to take 3 strands, making sure that my tips are all the same length. And then I'm just going to place it on top. I want my tips to go about to the back of my tail. I'm going to place them right over the top here. I'm going to do a couple of wraps, and then I'm going to bring the waist ends in and do a couple of wraps, and that's going to really tie it in securely so that it can't get yanked out. And then I'll go ahead and remove this and save this for my next fly. And then all I have left to do is whip finish and a little bit of head cement. So I'm going to go ahead and pop a whip finish on here, build up a little bit of a head. Don't want to get any head cement in your eye unless you're going to loan this fly to one of your buddies, and then it's kind of funny to put head cement in the eye. Okay, and then go ahead and cure it. Okay, and that is a California Dreamin'.